today's edition of CovInspiration with Dayo Israel. Today, I'm bringing you this special episode. It's actually the earliest we've ever done, and this particular episode has one of the people that I respect so much, one of my mentors, one of the most celebrated Nigerians on the face of the planet, is one of the most influential Nigerians you can ever meet. This man is something else. He's been to everywhere, literally. He's gone everywhere. Is an amazing Nigerian who, someone you will consider ambassador, plenipotentiary, and extraordinary. He's held no official office in government, but he has contributed to Nigeria more than many people who are in government. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with me to the studio, Mr. Dayo Dele Momodu. Bob Dee.
How are you?
Uncle, I'm fine, thank you.
I'm happy to be on your program. Thank you so much for inviting me.
No, my pleasure, sir. Oh, the first thing I want to even say is I want to hear the history behind that. You and your children, you have peculiar names. You have Pekon. Oh, another one is Yole.
Yes, Oluwa Akindona.
Oluwa Akindona. Oh, another one, Yole something.
Anytime Yole. And then Eniafelamo.
Wow, many to feni.
And then Enikorewa Fumi.
What inspires all this name, Ebo? Is it because you study Yoruba?
Yeah, that's part of it. I have a first degree in Yoruba, and as such, it means that I'll be very deep in Yoruba culture, in the tradition of our people. There is a saying in Yoruba that Yorubas don't just give names to their children. There are things they watch out for when your wife is pregnant. What are the things that happen? Was it a peaceful period for the family? Was it a prosperous time for the family? For example, when I say Enikorewa Fumi, it means that the pregnancy brought me some good fortune. Ire means good fortune. If, for example, the baby came and the father died just before the baby arrived, then they will name the baby Babarinsa, that the father ran away. So when I said Enikpeko, my first child is Oluwapeko Sayemi, means God has extended my roots, God has extended my branches. So that's my first child. Yes, so yeah, Ekonigi is from Ekonigi. Like, you have your branches, you could have your roots, so Ekon could stand for both. So I coined that myself. I never had that name before. That was original to me. Yes, Oluwapeko Sayemi. And in fact, a lot of people have adopted that name since then. I know a lot of people say, it was your son's name I heard. And because of that, I also chose the name for my... Okay, just a minute. I'm not hearing you well. Just a minute. I want to increase one of the...
Okay, I muted myself on here because there was a feedback.
Okay, yes, that's fine. Okay, so what I'm saying now is that my own Ojutelegon came from my grandmother. I come from a rural background, very rural. My mom did not go to school, so my grandmother did not go to school. My father went to school, but my father died by the time I was barely 13 years old. So I was now left with my mom, with my grandmother. Every now and then I went to Bogon to see her. And the meaning of Ojutelegan actually came from the fact that my mom was previously married before she met my dad, and they got married. So, but when they married, it took many years before they could have me. I'm the only child of my mom for my dad. It took, so there were people who said, look at this man. He went and married someone who can no longer give birth to a baby. So my mom actually lived in a church, in an Aladura church in Ife, in Obalufo, in Ife, where I was born. You know, she had to go into serious prayers and fasting for me to come. So my grandmom now named the Ogitelegon, that those who despised my mom, those who said nasty things about her, that she would never bear a child. Choton, now she has a baby.
You are one of the most blessed Nigerian, but you're also one of the most challenged. You've had a story, you've had a journey, and one at the critical of that journey was your experience in the June 12 challenge. But the interesting part is that if you had not gone through that challenge, you may not have become what you have been today. Because if you had not gone on Excel, you may not have started Ovation Magazine. Did you envisage all of this when you were growing up?
I am the original child of destiny. I always tell people when they say Destiny Child, you know, there is a music group that they had that was called Destiny Child. I'm the original Destiny Child because the story of my life attests to the efficacy of destiny. In Nigeria, especially in Yoruba land, I'm sure in some other parts, maybe the Igbo land, the Igbos call it chi, ori. We call it ori. Ori mi ìwọ ni, gbogbo nǹkan tí n bá jẹ́ láyé, ori mi ìwọ ni, gbogbo nǹkan tí n bá ṣe láyé, ori mi ìwọ ni. You know, so ori is destiny. Ori is what prepares you for the blind journey. You know, we're all blind in one way or the other. None of us knows where we came from, how we came to this world. We just know that a man and a woman slept together, got pregnant, had a baby, but we cannot even know science. Forget about the Darwin theory, you know, of creation and everything. Nobody has been able to say precisely where we came from, how we came, and where we are going from here. We just say we are going to heaven. So all these are things that I imagined as far as I'm concerned. So in my case, every period of my life, every stage of my life, step by step, my trajectory has been linked to my destiny. It's incredible. From the moment I was born, there was a prophecy in the Aladura church that if I survive the first 7 years of my life, I am going to be very, very famous. How that will happen, I didn't know. I was young when I first heard of that prophecy. Then my father died. Everything started tumbling down for the family. We couldn't afford to pay rent. We were chased out of where we were living, myself, my mom, and my, I would call her my stepsister, you know, my sister from my dad. We were both living with my mom, and then we had to move to Modakeke to go and stay with our cousins, the Oyemades. So that was that. Then the next stage was education. I was in Form 2 when my father died. I was in St. John's Grammar School in Ife. Now, to live in Modakeke and go to school at Okeaton, I mean, that was a distance of God knows how many kilometers. So there was no way a young boy like me at... Hello?
Walking. You were walking.
No, I said to walk would be difficult from where we were living in Modakeke. So, but fortunately, somewhere along the line, my brother-in-law, the man who married my sister, my older sister, was teaching in my school. So I was able to stay with them. You see, you can see how God just prepares everything for me. It would have been impossible. So I was staying with them, and that was how, it became convenient for me to go to school. Even from my primary school, before my father died, I started school at the age of 6. But in those days, you were not admitted to school based on age. You were admitted based on if your right hand can touch your left ear. Then they will say you are now matured enough to go to school. So the first school I wanted to go, the headmaster refused. He said I was too small, that my hand could not touch my left ear. So then they rejected me. But there was another headmaster who had a shop, a bookshop, Olushanu bookshop. I will never forget the man. Chief Isaac Olagbaju is of blessed memory now. So he said, oh, Dele, no. Oh, you are not too young. You can come to my school. So that was how I followed him. I now went to a school that was so local that the name of the school itself was Local Authority Primary School. And opposite our school was a shrine where you had, all kinds of, they call them demons. I never saw one, but just right up. So that was my background. And so I finished from St. John's Grammar School. And of course, I didn't do very well. I had a poor grade 3. So I was a slow starter. So that's the issue of destiny again. I was a slow starter. I didn't do well. I failed. I had F9 in mathematics, F9 in chemistry, F9 in biology. So definitely I was not going to be able to go for any science course in the university. My mom, despite not being educated, knew the value of education. She insisted I must go back to school. So I went back to retake my papers. But before then, after my first school start, I was an errand boy at CSS bookshops. That was, I think it was an Anglican mission bookshop in Ile-Ife. So I was an errand boy. I would work, sweep the floor, dust the bookshelves. But that was where I started coming in contact with books. I started meeting people, scholars. I remember the first time I met Dr. Tai Sholari, it was in the shop. He came in to look for some books. I think he was driving through Ife. Ife was very notable for books, for academic work because of the proximity of the university. And our shop was opposite the Ife Palace. So I worked there. Then I worked as a village teacher. As a village teacher in a village, I can't remember the name now. It was so remote that we had to jump on cocoa tractors to get to the village. There was no normal truck that would go on that road. The road was that bad, and eventually I ended up at the University of Ife Library, the Ezekiah Oluwa Somi Library at the University of Ife. And that was where I worked as a library attendant. It wasn't too different also from being a bookstore attendant. And that was now where I came in contact with so many books, with so many scholars, the Wole Soyinkas, the Collier Motor Shops, the Wande Abimbolas. Everybody was in Ife at that time. And that again would reshape my life. In 1977, there was a major exam leakage, WAEC exam leakage. They called it the year of the expo, and I was awaiting my results. Then they told me they stopped it. So they seized the results because they wanted to check if we cheated or not. Again, my mom said, well, if they will not release that result, I should go back and do school start a third time. And what I want to know from this experience is that in life, you cannot afford to give up. Keep trying. If you fail, keep trying. If you fail, keep trying. So I kept trying, and by the time I did the third one, I had some of the best results in English and in English literature. So I was able to get all the 6 credits that I needed to move on to the university. So we did JAMB in 1978. And so I was a pioneer JAMBite. We were the first set of JAMB in 1978. And I decided to study Yoruba single honors. I know the next thing we ask is why Yoruba. again, I will tell you.
No, I was going to say, is that what JAMB gave you?
I'm not hearing you well. I think you muted.
Is that what JAMB gave you, or that was what you wanted?
No, that's what I wanted. You see, from staying working at the university library, I realized that more people were studying what they call funky subjects: law, English language, medicine, pharmacy, and so on and so forth. So, and fortunately, I'd read most of the African literary series while working in the university library. And I asked, so how come people don't like to study Yoruba? And they said, oh, Yoruba is difficult. I said, how can an everyday language you speak be that difficult? So I then decided, I rebelled. It was a rebellion for me that no, and I'm going to study Yoruba, and whatever will happen, well, what let it happen. Even when my mother, Arike Omaroti Webeojo, heard that I was studying Yoruba in the university, she was very disturbed. She was worried. Kí ló wá tí Yoruba yìí ṣe Ayọ̀bándélé? Ṣé ò wá sí nǹkan? Ṣé bẹ́ẹ̀ lórí rẹ̀ dọ́ta tó ni? She thought maybe that is why a grown-up man will go to the university to go and study the language he speaks every day. But I explained to my mom that no, I'm not a dullard. Yoruba is like English language, it's like German, it's like French, it's like any other language. And if we don't study our own languages, then those languages will perish. And I'm grateful to God today that was the subject I studied. One, it made me different from the crowd. When we started, we were 71 that started in Yoruba. By part 2, we were 65. By part 3, we were about 23. And by final year, part 4, only 6 of us did Yoruba single honors. Only 6 of us. And today, if you look at it, I write in English. I went back to study literature in English just to demonstrate that I was not a dullard. The university said no, it was not possible. It will not be. I was the first Nigerian ever to study a first degree in Yoruba and do a master's in literature in English. It has never happened. They said no until Professor Adeniji Adalegbe of blessed memory intervened and said, if you have not seen it before, there is always a first time.
Somebody has to start it.
So the university then recommended that I should go and take prerequisite courses in undergraduate. You know, the interesting thing was that when I finished my first degree, while on national service, I went to teach A-level Yoruba. So some of my students were already now in the university by the time they were asking me to go and take undergraduate courses again. But within a few weeks, I stood out brilliantly. I was way ahead of the class, and the Department of Literature in English then agreed to give me exemption. So I could now concentrate on my master's program. And I did that within 2 years, and I finished, and the rest is history. So that's why I said at every stage of my life, there was always an intervention. Imagine I finished reading Yoruba. I was sent to Bauchi for my youth corps. NYC. When I got to Bauchi, after the camp, Bauchi rejected me. They said no, they had no place for a Yoruba graduate. So I came back to Oyo State. And you won't believe where Oyo State posted me. Oyo State College of Arts and Science, Ile-Ife, where I was born, where I grew up. So I served in Ile-Ife. So that's why I always tell people you can call me.
Because back in those days, Ile-Ife was part of Oyo.
I'm not hearing you, Dayo. I can't hear you. I think you need to.
I said back in those days. Can you hear me, sir?
Let me see. Maybe I have to increase one of my microphones. Okay, go on.
Let's increase the Instagram and decrease this one.
Yes, I've increased Instagram now. Yes.
Okay, let's decrease this one. Okay. Yeah, what I was saying is that your state at that time was part of that. If at that time.
I was part of Oyo in 1982 when I finished. True. I graduated in 1982. So where I went to Bauchi, then came back.
Where I want to jump to, I have a question. In all of these local authority, where did international mindset come from? Where did you start loving traveling abroad, going meeting kings and royals? Where did that in that local community or somewhere where you went?
I always tell people the greatest thing that can happen to man is education. Education. That's why I invest heavily in education. You see, I always say that while my mates were busy building mansions and everything, I was building my own mansions in my children and others that I support. You understand? Education is the only thing that can liberate you. You understand? From poverty, yes, from diseases, from ignorance, and so on and so forth. So, anyway, the mindset also came from the fact that I had an older brother. We're same mother, but not same father. Professor Olatunde Bolaniwa Ajayi. He had attended government college in Badagry, finished his A-levels in 1965, I believe, and got a scholarship to travel to America. You know, in those days, life was good. If you are brilliant, you get a scholarship. So he got a scholarship and went to America, and he was in America for 10 years, from 65 to 75, and got a PhD in physics from Stanford. That's one of the best universities in the world. So while he was there, number one, he used to send things back home to me. I was the only brother he had back home. So he would send me clothes, he would send me things. And then by 1975, when he returned to Nigeria, he was immediately appointed a lecturer at the Department of Physics in the university. So I moved in with him. He was initially married to an American wife who came back with him to Nigeria. So you can imagine that by the time I was doing my school start, I was living with them, living with an American, looking at their way of life. I remember that even my food, my menu changed, because that was where I saw peanut butter for the first time. That was, you know, I saw bacon, you could eat bacon, you could eat sausages, you could eat oats. The first time I saw oats, I thought someone put some pebbles or sand inside my ogi, because it didn't look smooth like our usual ogi. So I saw jam. I thought jam was blood when they said you should put jam on the bread.
In the bread.
Know? So, but my life started changing. So I had to adjust to the food that, and then I also learned how to cook. So I started cooking on my own. You know, with these foreign people, everything is DIY. You have to do it yourself. So you don't have any or any housekeepers who is going to help you. So to cut a long story short, that was where I started dreaming about abroad. I remember one day talking to a friend of mine, Shegun Olabaju, who was my classmate at St. John's, and we were dreaming how we would travel all over the world. So we brought out a map of the world, and I said, I'm going to beg my brother. I did it. It was as if people don't pay to travel. You know, that was the mindset of these kids. So we drew up, and I said, I want to travel from Lagos to London, London to Paris, Paris to Germany, Germany to Honolulu, Honolulu to America. You won't believe it. And I was drawing it on the map. And you have been all of those places now. By the grace of God, I've been to much more places now. But that's the power of dreams. If you dream it, you can have it. Trust me, if you dream it, you can have it. So, but I didn't know how this would happen. Again, fortunately, the first time I would travel, I was barely I think that would be 1985. So I was 25. My brother, the same professor, was on sabbatical at the University of Surrey in Guildford in the UK. So he was a teacher in the school, and he invited me, and that was my first time. And you can imagine flying British Caledonia to England. That changed my perception about the world completely. By the time I came back, everybody knew I was a Bintu. I'd been to England. You know, I had to let everybody know. I had my perfumes. Everything just changed. And so, if you dream, it will happen. Also, just after that, I got a job in 1986 with Oba Akindona Welcome the second, the Oni of Ife. So you can imagine. I mean, if you are talking about class, that is the peak of class. You hardly find people like that again around today. Ebitikimokwiri, Osumole Sumeni, Olubushi Alakete Ogun, Dakunda Bomokomino, I took a lot. I didn't know again that God was preparing me for a journey ahead. You see, because working with Oba Akindona, they taught me something. How to be friends with everybody. He was one of the closest people to the Awolowos, yet he was very close to the MPN, the Shagaris, the Akinloyes, the Akinjides. He taught me that how to be friends with people. Even when you disagree, you are still friends. And that has helped me till today.
Wow, amazing, Uncle. Before I go into detail, because there's a lot that you're going to share with us about what happened in that period, I want to ask one more thing about your life. You have, I don't know what president you haven't met. I don't know what nation you haven't been to. And you are still one of the most humble human beings in this world. You are very easygoing, you are unassuming, you are very stable, and you respect both the high and the low. How do you do this?
Yeah, it's from my cumulative experiences, if I can say that, and exposure. You see, I've had multiple, everything that God gave me is in multiple. I had huge experience at different stage of my life. You remember I mentioned teaching A levels when I was barely 22 years old. Can you imagine teaching? Even some of my students were older than me. And the way we were trained in Yoruba is you must respect whosoever is older than you, even if it's by 1 month. You will not believe it. A lot of my seniors in school today, even some of our juniors call them by name. I will never do it. There is a man I always use as an example. I call him Jiblo. Jibola Osheyi. He was my senior at St. John's Grammar School. Till today, I call him Uncle Jibola. Nothing will make me call him by his first name. That's the way we were brought up. So humility is part of education. A lot of people feel that you have to be rude to people before they can recognize you as important. No. No. Ìwà pẹ̀lẹ́ wọ́n ní kámúrà gbàtàràgbà, kámúrà gbàtàràgbà, ìwà là ń wá, ìwà ohunkóhun tá a bá já láyé, ìwà lọ́ba àwúre.
Ṣé Odùfá nìyẹn? Ṣé Odùfá ló tún pè é rẹ?
If you want us to do Odùfá, we will do Odùfá later. Don't worry.
Another thing, how do you build friends? You know people.
Yes, I just told you, I've been too fortunate. After my national service, my next job was for the then Deputy Governor of Ondo State, Chief Akamo. So you can imagine a small boy of 23 years old being a private secretary to a Deputy Governor of Ondo State when Ondo State was a combination of Ondo and Ekiti. So I worked with him. I lived partly in Nigeria, Ekiti, where he came from. I lived partly in Ijaku Estate in Nakure. So, I mean, there is no way you will meet the caliber of people I met so early in life that you will not begin to have friends. And when you are humble to people, I remember meeting Primate Olabayo, the famous primate Olabayo. I was young. I was only 22, 23 when I met him. So I was well exposed. I started meeting the Olu lawyers. I started meeting the Bola case. I started meeting all the big people at that time. So that prepared me for the life I'm living today. When I was in the library, I had a mentor, Prince Deji Adelabu, who was a cousin to the Omobudu. This was a man of style. He's also of blessed memory now. You know, Uncle Deji liked me so much. And you see, when you have a mentor, you want to be like your mentor. So if your mentor is stylish, you also want to be stylish. So I looked at Obashijuade, how in the palace he had portraits. If you look in the palace at that time, on every wall, it's like in my house now. If you look around, you will see pictures of who is who and all that. I picked that from Obashijuade. It was after I stopped working for him that I went back for my master's. And immediately after my master's, my first job was for MKO Abiola at Concord newspaper. So you can imagine that kind of trajectory. It's almost surreal. It's not normal. For me, even this morning, my wife was saying it when we woke up. He said, definitely your life is about God. That God loves you more than anyone should know. Because things that are considered impossible, it will just happen. I'm telling you, it will just happen. So meeting people for me, in fact, my most natural talent is how to make friends. Unless you want to be my enemy, I cannot be your enemy. People can say I don't like Dele, but I can't be your enemy. No way.
Let me make a confession here, but I'm sure you know about this already. A huge part of my life and my lifestyle was inspired and modeled by Dele Momodu. When I was young, I would go to Jeba Bus Stop to go and read Ovation Magazine on the Adebayo. And I see pictures of all the rich people. And they're waiting for one day I would enter Vision. That was the life goal. Getting into Ovation was a life goal. I remember when I called you in London, I think it was around 2009. And I said, Bob Dee, it was not 2007, 2008, we're in England. I just flew to London and I said, Bob Dee, I'm going to talk so and so. And it was my goal to be in Ovation before my 25th birthday. And he said, no problem. Somebody's going to call you now. And Mike called me and boom, 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 boom. I had a few pages in Ovation Magazine. Because you look at you have your traveled all over the world, made people. So anybody who is wise and look at how my life is, and I love pictures, meeting world leaders, celebrities, they will know that
you have done extremely well. I always marvel at how at your age you practically took over the Commonwealth thing, the Commonwealth Day, and how you will bring VVIPs from Nigeria to England to meet the royals. I mean, I've followed you. Ovation has been a part of it, and so I always say something: a successful man without successors is a useless man. And your successors are not only your own biological children. My son, Eniafe, in his tribute to me recently, was saying that I meet so many people that we compete because they claim to be my father's children. They are not my biological children, but they are people that I have mentored, and they see themselves as a part of me. And that is the biggest success any human being can record. So I am so proud of the man, the great man that you have become. And I pray that you will also lift up others. You see, people think it's all about money. No, it's not money. It's about your ability to touch people remotely. And that is just it.
Absolutely. Uncle, before I go further, I have a song I want you to listen to before I go to the next part of my conversation.
Abiola, Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò, gbogbo Yorùbá, ọba fọwọ́ ọlá rẹ̀ kàn mí, ìdòlówó.
Uncle Tunde, who was MKO Abiola?
That's a very difficult question to answer because MKO was more than just a man. He was more than just an employer. He was more than just a mentor. He was more than an inspiration to me personally and to so many others, not just Nigerians, all over the world. If you are looking for the global man in the real sense of the word, Abiola was the man. If you want us to talk about Abiola from now till kingdom come, I will never get tired of talking about him. Abiola was an authentic child of destiny. His father had 22 children before he was born. 22 children, they all died. I'm sure a lot of our young friends have never heard this. So imagine a man who had wives and who had children and they kept bearing children and all of them died. Abiola was the 23rd child and he was the first to survive. And after him, other children survived. So you can imagine, so there is something mysterious about Abiola. He was not an ordinary child. That's why they named him Kashimawo. Kashimawo, that's where he got the Kashimawo. In those days, people believed in a people in Igbo land they called Obanke. So Abiola fortunately survived, and then the other children also survived. Abiola, of course, was fortunate. I remember his secondary school. I don't remember his primary school. He went to Baptist Boys High School at Belkuta. President Obasanjo also attended the same school. Prince Bola Ajibola attended that school. So many people, so many great Nigerians attended the Baptist Boys High School. You know, in those days, most of the schools were the missionary schools. He was known to have been a man with photographic memory. Abiola was a man, if he met you, he would forever remember you. Of course, he was poor, just like most of us. So he had the grass to grace trajectory. He would tell anyone who cared to listen that the first time he ate even eggs was in his in-laws' house. He married his first wife, was Alaja Simbiat Abiola. But he had a child before. Yes, he had a child before then, you know, Omolola Abiola, now Mrs. Edewo. Yes. And of course, his first son, so his official wife, Alaja Simbiat, then gave him Kolawole Abiola, gave him Ayodeji, gave him Agbola, gave him Bolaji, Mrs. Kuku gave him Uraola. And so 5 children, and then of course he married other wives. God bless him. I think the way I used to write it in those days, and he used to laugh anytime I wrote about him, that God gave him everything in excess. That's how God gave you brains in excess. God gave you money in excess. God also gave you children and wives in excess. And they will just laugh, you know. So I think God wanted to compensate the family for all the children that they lost before Abiola. He was an extremely, extremely generous man. In fact, The world knew him more as a philanthropist, as a giver, a generous giver, than even as a businessman. Unlike most people who made their money at home and took it abroad, he made money internationally and brought the money back home to invest. He was a very simple and humble man, and this I took after him, was that while all this, I remember one day we went to see a very, very rich Nigerian who had so many properties. We went to see the man somewhere in Ikoyi. I went with Chief Abiola. And when we got to the place and I saw the sprawling estate and everything, I had to tell the man, I said, you know, I don't have a house in Ikoyi. I don't have a house in Victoria Island. I live in Ikeja. That was Abiola for you. He said, I built my houses in people. Abiola was not a man. A lot of people didn't know him. So when I came to Lagos, Abiola was probably the most hated Nigerian. People hated him because of the politics of UPN and PN. You know, until later, people now discover the real Abiola. So the same way you've asked me now, the way I answer it is Abiola was a man specially sent to the world to change the lives of so many human beings, of which I was one of them. And when I use the word change, people think it's because of millions. No. In my own case, I was his disciple. I remained his disciple. I looked at Abiola and I would say, hey, how do we do this? Today, if I want to take certain decisions, I would ask, how would Abiola have done it? And it started changing my life. We did quite a lot together. I met him at home and abroad. He was a man of the world, respected everywhere. I remember one day in 1992, he flew about 43 of us to Senegal, where we visited Gori Island, you know, and that was the day I saw him. He was shedding tears, looking at where the slaves were taken, especially when they showed us a tiny door leading to the Atlantic, the door where they call the point of no return, you know, and then he saw the heavy stones and with chains that they used to tie to the legs of slaves. He was in tears. Then I remember how in 1991, I wrote him a letter. I think Babangida had just lifted the ban on some politicians, and I wrote him a letter and I said, Daddy,
that are you privy to what happened leading to him deciding to run for office? Can you tell us some things about his decision to run for public office, to go into politics after being a successful businessman? Please share some of those with us.
Okay, I knew, or let me say, I suspected all along that Chief was going to go back to politics. You know, he was already in politics until he stormed out of MPN in 1981. And that was my first time of meeting him. There was an MPN convention, I think it was at the National Theatre that day. And I went from school. I was in the past 3. But we've always dreamt of meeting up. I don't know where I just got those dreams from, but I wanted to meet him. And myself and a friend, we went, and he saw us, he greeted us warmly, but we didn't have his contact. And you know, it's not like now where you have mobile phones. There were no phones in those days. So, but to cut a long story short, anyway, I knew Abiola was going to go into politics at some point. It was too obvious. And there were times he complained that his money alone could not change the lives of everyone. And that wouldn't it be better if he could then use our collective money to change our collective destinies? I think that was what propelled him. So he needed, you know, to come. He wasn't going to come to government to steal money because God already overblessed him. So he wanted a situation where he would be able to redistribute the wealth of Nigeria to Nigerians. So I wrote him a letter and I begged him that if he was going back into politics, he should please join the party of his people. And immediately he sent for me. I remember I was living with a friend of mine, Bello, somewhere in Anthony Village. And he said, they should go and bring me. So I went to his house that day, and that was the day he declared me as his adopted son. He was hosting the Eagles. The players and their coaches were there in the house when I came in. So I opened, it was in the boardroom. There is like a lounge downstairs, in his house. And so I opened the door to peep. The security guy said they don't know when he will finish what he was doing, but if he sees me, maybe he will ask me to come in, or I should go and wait for him upstairs. So immediately I opened the door. He just stopped. He was making a speech, and he just paused, and he said, "Let me stop and acknowledge the arrival of my adopted son, Dele Momodu." And my head almost exploded. Imagine an Abiola, and the newspapers carried it. It was everywhere. And Abiola adopts Dele Momodu, that kind of thing. So that bond of father to son started from that day. And then when he finished, he said I should follow him upstairs. Abiola was the man who allowed us into his bedroom. He was a very free soul. He wasn't a big man who would say, "You are too small to come near me." No. So we went upstairs, and he asked me, "Dele, Kilorino, to fi collect her, Munisa, Munimummo, one day you would like to go into politics. But I'm worried I don't want you to make the same mistake of MPA." I said, "It is not in the character. Me, I have this power of analysis since I was young. It's almost like very prophetic." I said, "It is not in the character of Republican parties to pick good characters, that they like the bad guys, and they like the people they can control." He said, "Hey." He said, "So, don't let's start Trump matter here." Trump has some great big supporters that I cannot. If we have time, I'm ready anyway. So anyway, I told him that the Republicans, they will not give him the ticket. And even if they give him the ticket, he should consider something. What if you contest, you lose election? You would have lost two things. You would have lost the election. You have also lost your people, because your people will feel betrayed. Like maybe you saw their party, you didn't join them, you went to join a different party. I don't know if he remembered that by the time he took the decision, because a lot of people couldn't believe he would join SDP. Normally, he would have moved towards, because most of his friends were in NRC. But surprisingly, he moved to, as prophesied by me and advised by me, small me, that please join the party of your people and see what happened. He won the election. They did not give him his mandate, but he had his people.
But do you think that if he had gone to NLC, they would have given him the mandate?
He will not get the mandate. He will not even get the ticket. I'm very sure about that. Because NLC had always been a northern party. And Abiola was too powerful, too influential. It would not be controllable. In fact, the biggest problem they have with him today till tomorrow is that Abiola was too powerful. He knew it himself. And that is what I always say, that all powerful people who want to go into politics should watch it. Once you already have your own power, it's difficult for others to give you more power. It's a theory of, look, if you look at the case of Trump that you mentioned just now, the reason he got that thing was because, one, the mood of the nation in America was already a black man had been president for 8 years. So they needed somebody to disrupt that. So you would have had the first black person as president for 8 years. You will now have the first woman as president. It will never happen. So they needed a bully. They needed someone who could whip up some crazy sentiments, white supremacy. Tell them that, no, we've wasted 8 years. So Trump was able to fit that description perfectly. How America will end up with it, some people are saying it's the best thing to happen to them. I wish them good luck. You understand? So that's what happened. That is what happened to Abiola. So Abiola had to go to a different party. You see, there is a common saying, charity begins from home. If you are not popular at home, how can you be popular outside? You understand? So if he had gone to a party that was not considered a local party, it would have been impossible. The love that Abiola enjoys today, you can see how long it took even the others to accept him. Until Buhari, for whatever reason, saw reason to honor him. Nobody was ready to honor Abiola, including even when his own people were in power, because those who control power were elsewhere. So that battle started not on June 12th. It started before June 12th.
Let me take you further, Uncle. I have a lot of questions, so I'm going to throw them out here for you to help us make sense out of it. Number one, we heard that Abiola was very close to Babangida. So why did Babangida betray him? That's one. Number two, we also heard that Abiola was the one that told Abacha to come and take over power and hand over power to him. Was that also true?
Okay, let's take it one by one, so I won't forget. Can I have some? Okay, where's my notebook? Okay, it's here. Okay, the first one is about why that it was very close. It was very close to, yes, I know for a fact that some people reached President Babangida before Abiola threw his hat in the ring. One of them was his wife, Dr. Doyin Abiola. Very, very powerful, very influential as the managing director of Concord newspapers. Different people went to President Babangida to ask him, please, if you are not ready to leave, let us know, so that there is no point your friend will waste his time and resources. And he said, no, he was ready to leave. Babangida gave his word that he was ready to leave. But again, to fast forward, years later, I've also had time, because I've been trying to say I can write a book about the saga. It's not been easy because a lot of people are not forthcoming in terms of information. And I can only talk about what I knew personally. I cannot talk for others. That would be fiction. So, yeah. Babangida claims till today, and now I have access to him. I have access to some of his lieutenants who are very, very close to him. I've asked this question tireless. The same question as, why did he make that mistake? And they are insisting that Babangida was not alone in that decision. They are insisting that there were people who were even close to Abiola who said over their dead body, Abiola must not be president. You know, the more powerful you are, the more powerful your enemies. And the Yorubas have a saying that you know, I don't know how to translate that easily, that your enemies are in your backyard, but your killers who will kill you, actually, who will poison you, they are right inside your home. Yes. So that, yes, Babangida would forever take the blame as the man who annulled the election. He was the one who annulled it, and a leader must be ready to live with that. Okay? But that there were people who conspired and said Abiola must not be given power. And it's based on the same theory I gave you earlier on. The theory is that there are enemies everywhere. Abiola himself used to say that the bigger the head, the bigger the headache. So Abiola had massive headache from people around who saw him as being too powerful and should not be given power. Till today, Nigeria is a mafia nation. And don't forget that the political system of Nigeria is controlled fully by the military class. Fully till today. And I will give you my theory again. Let me fast forward before we rewind. In 1999, the biggest beneficiary of the June 12 crisis was who? President Olusegun Obasanjo. Who was he? He was a military general. Who took over from Obasanjo? It was the brother of Major General Shehu Musa Yar'Adua, and that was President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua. The only exception, and that was by accident, was that Yar'Adua died in power, so his deputy, the Vice President, Goodluck Jonathan, took over. But what happened? After one time, they chased him out. Who took over? Military general. So, and the military general is still the one in power. So, in the last 21 years of return to democracy in Nigeria, the military is fully in charge. So we don't know what will happen in 2023. We don't know. But it is almost impossible for anybody to become president in Nigeria as of today. I don't know unless a revolution happens between now and 2023 that someone can hijack power from there. You will have to do a deal with the mafia. You will have to go and visit Buhari, go and visit Babangida, go and visit Salami Abubakar, go and visit Obasanjo, go and visit T.Y. Danjuma, go and visit Ushishi. That is how it works.
Okay, let me interrupt you there. So, did you make this visit when you were running in 2011?
No, I didn't make the visit because I wanted to change the system. But the system was more powerful, extremely powerful. I didn't go. I didn't even join the mainstream party. That's another thing. It's virtually impossible for you to become president if you are not a member of one of the two mainstream parties. I told Donald Duke this, and he will confirm it any day that I told him clearly that a third force was not going to work. It never worked. You have a young man, very brilliant, very active, you know, like Showore. Even the young people were shouting, not too young to run. What did they do? So you had Mogalu, you had Feladro Toye, you had all these great guys. And yet, they couldn't make it. So those who don't understand Nigeria think election is about just get a ticket and we vote for you. No. I was dead serious. I was dead serious when I contested. People thought it was a joke. What was my idea? I wanted a workers' platform, the labor. That's why I joined labor. That let us get all the workers of Nigeria. Everybody who has a job is a worker and is a laborer, in quotes. So let's go to labor. Let's galvanize all our workers. Let them get them to subscribe to a political party where they can make direct contributions every month. We make deductions like we do direct debits in London. So we have a direct debit system. So we will not need any billionaire to come and control our party. That was my theory, and that was my mission. I went to the British Labour Party in England, and I met a member of parliament who helped us, and we're going to help us further in the area of formulating, you know, a social welfare system.
Contract, yes.
Yeah, so we're going to have a social, because a country as poor and as impoverished as Nigeria needs a social welfare system. You cannot practice capitalism without capital. What is wrong with Nigeria today is that we are practicing capitalism without capital.
But somebody notes that down.
But nobody listens to me. They say, oh, who is he? Does he think it's ovation? Does he think it's ovation? The part of our problem is that we look down on ourselves too much. It was one man, Prince Dakobuwusi, who said something that made me cry one day. He said, if Dele was a lawyer, by now it would be the equivalent of a double senior advocate of Nigeria. Oh, wow. That one has finished.
After 1 hour, I'm going to come back on Instagram now. Can you hear me, sir?
I think we've done 1 hour already, so Instagram has cut you off.
Yes, but I'm here with you. You want me? Keep speaking, sir. I will come back on Instagram.
I hope you saved it. Hello?
Yes, sir. I'm saving it now.
Okay, why don't you let me host you? Because from mine, they will not cut us off. We can do 2-3 hours straight. Then I can save it immediately.
Okay.
So I will host you now. While you are hosting me on the other one, I will host you on this one.
Okay. I'm waiting.
Yes. Just a second. We need to charge these batteries. Hey, we've been talking. I didn't know we've gone so far.
And we haven't even scratched the surface.
We haven't even scratched the. You know, the first thing I asked you this morning is how much time have you got? Because this is a serious matter. That's why when you were saying 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock. Let's see. Is that okay? Hello? Is that camera fine the way it is?
Yes, it is. Let me know where you go live on Instagram.
Yes, I'm doing that now. I want to put out the first camera because I'm also charging the batteries are going down so that we don't get cut off again. It is where. Yes, I've gone live now. It is well. It is well. It is well.
Adding your friends together, I will send the notification now.
You said what?
He's going to start notifying us.
I don't understand.
I'm waiting for you to notify me that you're live.
Okay. Don't worry. That will be done in a second.
Okay. Listen back.
I'm live now. Yes, I'm live now.
Perfect. I'm live too.
Yes.
I'm asking for an invite.
Let me
I sent you an invite already.
Yes, I'll see it in a second. Yes, I've seen you. Fantastic. Good. We're good to go. It's connecting.
I'm waiting for you to see me.
Yeah, your internet seems to be slow on that end. It's showing waiting, which means the internet is slow on your end. You should have connected by now. If it goes off, you will request again, then I will. And we were just getting to the very interesting part.
Into the meat of the matter. Some people have to switch from Instagram and come to this other one, Facebook.
We lost it. So make a request again, please.
It says invitation expired. Can you pick me, sir? Can you pick me and send?
Make a request again. Once you are in, I'll let you in.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all. Just make a request again. That's all. Because I don't want them cutting us off again if you have time.
Okay, let me.
So many people have joined already. Okay. So I hope you connect.
Okay. It says my request wasn't sent.
Oh. I can see it right there.
Okay,
I can see your meeting. How are you?
Okay.
Yes, this is yes, so
I wanted you to cover as well in your response. Do you think PSC will be the last general? Then you were talking about the military.
Yes, so the military are in control. I am not sure if it will be. You see, my theories sometimes sound crazy. I will not be surprised if in the next 1 year, some people start shouting that Buhari has not finished his work and he should not go. I don't know if you heard me.
I did.
I can see you went quiet. People think it's unthinkable and it is impossible, but we shall see. Some people, it might not be Buhari himself, but some people will say Buhari is doing well. It's better we let him finish what he is doing, and that's how it will start.
So let's go back to June 12th. The relationship between Abacha, Abiola, and IPP, and also the allegation that IKO actually said to them to go and invite Abacha. Is that true?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I always talk about what I knew and know, and not what I imagined. I know there was a particular army general from the south who was always calling Abiola. And I've said this publicly before, and the general challenged me, got angry and everything. But I know this for a fact that it was the go-between between Abiola and Abacha. Also, I am aware that there were meetings held at the instance of this southern general. There was a meeting held in Abiola's house because I was arrested the day after. This would have been July 30, 1993. I was in Abiola's house from 2 p.m. Chief said I should come at 2, and I did not leave him until after 4 in the morning. He was busy in other parts of the house. I didn't know where the meeting was held, but I knew he was in the building. But he said I should wait for him, and I waited till I was the last man in the house. That was the same night that Mayor Akindona had his bachelor's eve at La Campagne Tropicana on Adeni Jones. I will never forget that day. When Chief came to me finally at about 4 a.m., he had wanted me to deliver some documents to Tell magazine. Tell, they were on the run at the time, and so they were publishing from the bush. But I knew where one of them was staying, around Akuwonjo, Mr. Kola Ilori. So I told Chief I will hand the documents over to Mr. Kola Ilori, and he said that was fine. So he came with the documents and gave them to me. He now wants me from the living room to the stairs where I will go down and then to my car. So when we got to where he was going to turn back, he hugged me. And then he pulled. He likes to do that. When he wants to whisper something, or then he pulled my ear and whispered that I should please forgive him that he has kept me waiting since afternoon. That he had some people in the house and they had a very important meeting. And then in whisper, he said, I am their commander-in-chief. I don't know who they were. He said, I am their commander-in-chief. So, but in retrospect, my analysis was that he was in touch with some people who had persuaded him that Abacha needed to intervene to clean out the Babangida boys from the military, and then they will give power to him. That is no longer a secret. Everybody knew about that. In fact, everybody knew something was going to happen. It was a question of when it will happen. So I was not surprised when Abacha struck. Now I will tell you my involvement again. How I knew that something was planned, but something else was executed. You know, there is planning and there is execution. What was planned was that they needed to take out the Babangida boys while the Abachas would take power temporarily and then give it to Abiola. Maybe we were naive. That is possible. But there is a Yoruba saying, if you cannot buy a lie, you can't also buy the truth. Yes, but it happens. But what choice do you have? The military is in charge. They were in charge.
So there was a plan.
The military was absolutely in charge. Even Babangida says that they threatened to kill him if he gave it to Abiola. You understand? So,
yes, sir.
My own involvement was that I think the coup was November 17th. It must have been a Thursday. Abiola was away from the house. He was staying somewhere off Allen Avenue during the time of the coup. He had left the house. So, but apparently he was waiting for the news and the message that would be released by Abacha. I believe that some people had written a speech that Abacha was supposed to read, but which he failed to read. That was the first alarm. When the first alarm blew, was when Abacha came and he was entrenching himself at that stage in power. He was no longer talking about Abiola getting his mandate. So Abiola came back from where he was. He came back to the house, I think on Friday afternoon. Then he called a meeting on Saturday night of his very close friends. And I remember the people who attended the meeting. I was there. There was Alhaji Tele Olukoya. There was Professor Femi Agbalajobi. There was Alhaji Chukwade Tono. Unfortunately, they've all departed this world. There was Miss Iyabo Ababa, who is the younger sister of Dr. Doyin Abiola, and I was there that night. Abiola was visibly angry. He was angry. And he told his friends. But the friends, I remember one by one how they responded. They told him, he said, they must fight Abacha, that Abacha had deceived them, and they must fight him. And one after the other, his friends advised him that you cannot fight Abacha. And what were the reasons adduced? One of them said, Don't let people say you are a troublesome man. You fought Babangida, he left power. You fought Shoneka, he left power. If you start fighting Abacha now, some people might see you as Alashiki. So another one said he believed Abacha would do the right thing. So Chief asked him, what right thing would he do again? He said, oh, that Abacha is a pro-democracy soldier. That from the speeches he made in the last few months, it showed clearly that the man loves democracy. Yes, I witnessed this. That was the stage at which Chief then asked me to go that night to go and get in all of the Abacha speeches in the last couple of months. So I went out, I had to go to the library. I went to one of the places I used was the Tel Library. I went there, and then by morning, Sunday morning, I brought the speeches for Chief. By the time I got there, he was having his breakfast at Dr. Doyabiola's apartment. So he asked me to go and wait for him at his own apartment. So I went and waited, and when he came, he took me in to the bedroom. I said, sir, I've brought what you requested of me. And he said, thank you. Dele One, he likes to call people, by nickname Dele One. He said, Dele One. And then I gave him the document. Then he said, the matter has passed matter of document. I said, what happened, sir? He said, have you heard? I said, heard what, sir? When you work for big people, they are prone to many gossips coming around them to tell them all sorts, true and untrue. I said, have I heard what, sir? He said, you haven't heard about Baba? I said, who is Baba, sir? He said, Baba Gana Kingibe. I said, what happened to him? He said, Baba has left us. I said, I don't understand, sir. Baba has left you where? He said, Baba says he's joining Abacha's government.
That was vice president.
He's vice president. Yes, he told me directly that Baba had left us. So I said, Baba left you how? He said, the man has agreed to work for Abacha. Oh, I said, no, Chief, don't listen to such rumor. That, at your level, people will come up. He said, no. That he has confirmed that Baba is gone. I remember one of Baba's friends, Alaji Kola, very, very popular Lagos man. The name will come back to me in a second. Called while I was with Chief in his bedroom. The man called. And they spoke briefly and then dropped the phone. Then Chief said, I'm sure Kola is calling to find out if I have heard. And then he told me another one that broke my back finally. He said, have you also heard that Ebino is going? I said, which Ebino? He said, Ebino Topsy. That's Chief Ebino Abatokwe. I said, how can you believe that Uncle Ebino will join a military government? He said, Ebino is gone. So I just, at that stage, when you say, I followed my buttocks to the ground. I just gave up that. Oh, wow. And what the military did was they dismantled all Abiola's feathers one by one. They were just removing, so it would not be able to fly. When they removed, Abiola was an eagle without feathers at that stage. They were just removing his feathers all around him. And he knew him, and it was coming at the speed of light. Everything was happening at supersonic speed, like that, So I asked him, so what are we going to do now, sir? He said, I don't know. He said he has called a meeting for that evening in his house. And that at the meeting, they will take a decision. It was at that meeting that everything finally collapsed. Abubakar Rimi, Baba Gana Kingibe, Alaji Latif Jakonde, every one of them agreed that they were, can you please take this thing off? Then take it out. you know. So that night, they all told him that they have decided to join Abacha. That if they don't join Abacha, the Yaradua boys will take all the position. I will call it one of Chief Abiola's saddest days on earth. When you see your own trusted lieutenant all telling you directly, frontally, with straight poker faces, that we are going. That was the end. But we didn't want to agree. But for me, that was the end. So they advised Abiola to go and see Abacha, that in fact, he should make sure that he fills Abacha's government with his own people. So when you fill Abacha's government with your own people, what then will happen to you, the leader?
And that's why I was going to take my next question, sir.
Yeah.
Was it wise for MKO to have declared himself president? What led to that? And what were the realities around that scenario that many of us do not know? You know, also the reason I'm having this conversation is that a lot of my people in my generation don't even know what June 12 is about.
Well, I don't blame them. We don't teach history in our school. I don't blame them. You understand? I don't blame them at all. Abiola could not have done it alone. Abiola was a consummate Democrat. Abiola believed in people, consultation. He was not a tyrant. He wasn't a tyrant. Abiola was a man. If someone like me, I can't remember what was my age at that time, in 1993, you know, I was a young boy, 33. And if I could play some roles at that time, it tells you the kind of person, you know, that he was. He was advised. I'll take it further. After the Abacha thing, he said he must get his mandate back. You know, he went to see Abacha one evening. He would have gone to see Abacha even straight from that meeting, but it rained dogs and cats. I will never forget that also. It rained heavily, so he couldn't go. So they now shifted the meeting to the. That was the one that Chief Bola Tinubu went with him. The pictures are everywhere. You know, they went to see Abacha together, but Abacha didn't say anything positive. Abacha by then had consolidated power. He had picked General Dia as his deputy, and you know, he had many of his ministers from the Abiola camp. So Baba Gana Kingibe was gone, Rimi was gone. He picked Chipolu Onogorua, picked the former publisher of The Guardian, Mr. Alexi Brew, took everybody away. So what was left for Abiola was to fight in the wilderness. And I remember, just a minute, please. So I remember when he wanted to start fighting them, I was in prison, July, August. I was in detention, rather, at the Alagmo detention camp. So after they arrested me, because that morning when I got back home from where I went to drop the documents they gave me, I didn't know I was already being trailed by the police. That morning.
And that was because of your close relationship with him.
Yeah. I wouldn't know why they picked on me, but I believe they thought I knew a lot. Do you understand? So anyway, he started fighting and we were supporting him. Then you remember that he also ran away from Nigeria. By the time he ran away, that was in August, I was in detention. I was so excited that he had escaped and I didn't want him to come back to Nigeria. My own theory was that for as long as he was alive, he would be able to reclaim his mandate. But there were people, that's why I told you that they tricked him into coming back, and I knew the people who were involved in that place. They were negotiating with him. You will remember the day he arrived in Nigeria, they even allowed, I think he came on Lufthansa that day, they even allowed his plane to land at park at the presidential wing of the airport. They were giving him presidential treatment. Yeah, they gave him this. Yeah, myself, Tokunbo Afikun-Yomi Tokunbo was coordinating a lot of things that day. You know, they allowed him. He came out in the open jeep, waving all the way to Ikeja from the local airport. He went from local airport, and we went to Moyin-Oluwa Akindona President, and hey, he was very presidential. You know, so that was how they tricked him into Abacha taking power. They were the ones behind the scene who were doing that. You know, they just used Chief Shoneko as a stopgap. You know, Chief Shoneko was there for about 3 months. It was just so they were planning all these things, how the military will come back. So they were just looking for a fall guy, and they picked Chief Shoneko as their fall guy. But there was a general who was working closely with them. So after the people now went with Abacha's government, anyway, so let's fast forward again, so as not to take all your time. Chief Abiola started fighting. He started fighting. What could we do? They started Nadeco. I remember the first meeting I attended with them was at General Adebayo's house on Ladipo Battery in GRA Ikeja. There was a meeting there, and all the big wigs came. And then they gave Abacha an ultimatum. I think this was also another funny drama. It was a melodrama. They gave him an ultimatum. If he does not hand over to Abiola, there will be trouble. You see, when you give an ultimatum to a military man, what he expects of you is to have a superior firepower. We didn't have it. The ultimatum came, the ultimatum expired, nothing happened. Abacha took over fully. He went on a blistering attack against the politicians. That was when he started picking people up, arresting people, and people were being maimed and all that. So that took a whole 1 year to the next anniversary, the first anniversary of the June 12 crisis. 1 year. In between, I traveled, I think, around March, because Chief Abiola said, hey, I got married December 92. And here I was in crisis, I was in detention, so he felt guilty that he had not even allowed me to enjoy my wife. So go abroad, go and stay for a few weeks, then come back later. So I traveled with my wife, you know, and thanks to Nduka Bagbena, he gave us a flat very close to Chief Tinubu's house on Cavendish in Regent's Park. So that's where we stayed. We had a good time. We came back. My wife was pregnant with our first baby. As soon as we came back, of course, we came straight into trouble again. You know, everything was just, yes, someone said melodramatic. It was a whole load of melodrama. And then by the first anniversary, Abiola was advised by those left with him anyway. A lot of the different leaders and all of them were, Abraham Adesoya, you know, all of them were with him. They stood like the rock of Gibraltar, you know, the Adebayo, the Adebayo, and all that. So anyway, we started planning on how that June 12th first anniversary will be marked. That was what led to Abiola declaring himself. So part of the advice. I remember even meeting some people from the American embassy at the time in Nduka Bagbena's house. They were suggesting that Abiola must be able to fight to reclaim his mandate. That was the general theory. But there were a few of us, like myself, people thought we were cowardly, but that was not it. Because I knew we had nothing to fight with the military, unless we had someone who would intervene on our behalf. There was nothing else we could do. But someone like me, someone like Prince Ademola Adele, who were of the opinion that under no circumstance must chief be arrested. But some people thought otherwise. So he declared himself the expected declaration. I didn't go with them. So he declared himself, and from there, he disappeared into thin air for about 13 days. There were speculations about the different places he had to go at that time. But since I was not there, I would not be able to speak to that. But what I can speak to was the day he came out from hiding. I was part of the operation. We went to bring him out from Senator Wahab Dosumu's house somewhere in Surulere that day, from where we went to the Shita playground, where he addressed the crowd. From there, he drove back to Moshood Abiola Christian, and that was the night he was arrested. So when we got back, by the time we got in front of Water Parks on Tony Street, we saw so many police, numbering maybe 600 or more. And it was obvious they were waiting for Chief, but they didn't make any move to arrest him. The theory of the Nadeko people was that Chief should have a human shield around himself, that the police would not be able to arrest him. They were talking about the Iranian Revolution and all that, So we drove in to, it was an open jeep provided by Prince Ademola Adele. So we drove in to the Moshood Abiola Christian, went in with Chief. I went upstairs, and he said, Dele one, go home, go and change. Because before that time, we had been planning how we would bring him out for about 48 hours, And so I went home to freshen up, came back. By the time I came back, the police had surrounded the house. And I didn't have a phone. There was no phone, like I said, at that time. So I went to a business center on Allen Avenue, put a call through to Chief at home. And then when he was connected, he said, Dele one, please just go back home and stay with your wife. I'm told they are coming to arrest me at 1 a.m. But I don't think Sonny can try it. That was the last statement he made to me on earth. He never believed that Abacha could arrest him. But by the following morning, the news was everywhere that he had been picked up.
What a story. What role did the international community play in all of this?
It's always difficult to know what the interests of the international community is. In retrospect, again, there were those who believed that America was not totally in support of Abiola, and that, in fact, all leaders in Africa always take instructions from the international community. They control Africa. And they knew that Abiola might not be easy to control. Don't forget that he had championed the cause of reparations, that America and all of them should pay heavily a reparation for the destruction of Africa, for slave trade. And that's one of the reasons we traveled to Senegal together in 1992. It was a very big movement. And by now, if Abiola was alive and he was president, I'm sure he would have pressed further for reparations, and these guys are not ready to pay for anything. So in retrospect, I believe they were part of the conspiracy. And if you look at even the manner of his death, the day he died, who were the people with him? Why did he die in their presence? What happened? Till tomorrow, nobody can explain it.
I was also going to ask about the media. A lot of your friends, and you were one of them, played a lot of role in the whole movement before June 12th, up to the death of Abiola. What was the role of tell us some of the stories of the media? What was his name? Babafemi Ojudu's, the Temple, and mention some of the names to us. What key roles did they play? What were some of the things we should remember? What were some of the roles before we then even go, and then take us in that journey into how you then exiled and then Radio Kudirat and all of that? Let's take us through that journey.
Well, it would be impossible for me to talk about everybody who played a role. So many people, not even just the media. So many people were arrested. Many people were detained. Some people even lost their lives. Tempo played a major role. Tempo came out of a fight between Abiola and some of his staff at the African Concord. And they were able to have one of the best magazines ever, the News Magazine, out of which they also created the Tempo. So the Tempo was their guerrilla response to a despotic military government. Mr. Bayo Nonuga, Babafemi Ojudu, Dapo Olorunyomi, Kunle Ajibade, and the rest of them. They were all at the Tempo. And they were being chased up and down. But those guys, they remain heroes forever. Babafemi Ojudu nearly lost his life in detention. Kunle Ajibade was in detention with Bola Ige. Anybody they suspected to take on the military ended up in prison. Tell Magazine suffered their own. You had Musa Ige, Onome for Whiskey, Dele Momodu, Dari Babarinsa, Mr. Moyin-Oluwa and others. They really, really suffered for Nigeria. A lot of newspaper houses were shut down. The Punch had always been in the forefront of struggles in Nigeria. We must salute their courage. It's a miracle that the Punch is alive today because they wanted to obliterate the Punch completely out of the surface of the earth. Of course, the Concord newspapers took a major hit. They shut it down forever. Till today, the Concord never recovered. The bakery, Chirabella had Wonder Bakery within the premises of Concord. The place was shut down. All the machines went rust. All the flour for bread. The military, they destroyed Nigeria. They destroyed Nigeria. So people died. So many people died.
And your part in that process, as also with your media background leading to your escape and then
yes, in my own case, I was writing. After my arrest, they charged me for sedition. A case that was virtually non-existent in our law, but they charged me. That's what they do. They pick you up, just find one serious excuse to throw you in the dungeon. So coming back, I had to tread more carefully so that they would not, but all I limited myself to was still writing. I never stopped writing. They told me not to go to Abiola again. I went to Abiola. That one, nobody could do anything about that, So they threatened, and my family was worried. As I said, I was a young man. I didn't have a child at the time June 12 happened, So it was after Chief Abiola's arrest that I had my first child. And I escaped Nigeria even before my first child was 1 year old. We lost everything. We had to start life all over again when I finally made it to England, So they accused me of being one of the brains behind the pirate radio station called Radio Freedom initially. The Radio Freedom was changed to Radio Kudirat after the assassination of Alaja Kudirat, Abiola. So, but I didn't know anything at that stage. At the time they accused me, I didn't know. But when I got into exile, I just believed that, that kind of thing. So the editor tutorial the thing I was alleged to have done. So why don't I find out more about it? So I linked up with the Kayode Fayemi, George Noah, Richie Dayo Johnson, and I was handling the Yoruba program for the radio. I had a pseudonym, like a false name, Saliu Elenuboro Eneolorupa. So that was my anytime I was broadcasting. I think we were on a shortwave frequency from a Scandinavian country, but I never traveled to the country. I was operating by telephone from London.
Mrs. I already was talking about a pendulum edition you wrote before you went into exile. Do you remember what you wrote about?
I wrote too many things. I'm sure it will be in my collection. I have 2 collections of books on pendulum. as at now. There are more coming.
Fantastic. I also wanted to find out what role the civil society play, in particular the Nadecos and our leaders who are the Bola Tinubu. Could you tell us some of the things? I also heard that Ashwaju.
Well, I met Tinubu in exile, and no matter what anyone will say, and this I've said it many times, and it's unassailable that Tinubu was one of the most committed people in Nadeco. He spent every penny that he had. He was one of the few people that if we ran into difficulties, you could run to at any time. So when I see a lot of young people attacking him, abusing me, I always tell them, Chief Tinubu was not a poor man. At that time, I'm telling you, many, many years ago, I'm talking of history of 25 or more years, 26 years. Chief Tinubu was not a poor man. The same house where he lived when he was in exile in Regent's Park is still the same place he lives today, the flat. I can tell you that for free. The same place. And he spent his money. Lieutenant General Alani Akinade was another man I will never forget. He spent his money so much, even at the point he sold his house in Totteridge. He had a house in Totteridge. There was Commodore Dan Suleiman, who almost died. He was our chairman, Commodore Dan Suleiman, and he was not even a Yoruba man, you know. The man could not even pay his mortgage. The man had a stroke while we were in exile. People suffered. There was Dr. John Oyegun Odigi. Oyegun. Yes, he was a prominent member, the former governor of Edo State. There was Pastor Tunde Obada, who was his deputy. He was also part of us. Pastor Obada was part of us in Nadeco. There was Professor Bolaji Akinyemi with us in exile. We had so many people who suffered. Honorable Wale Oshun, there's no way I can forget him. You know, we were all there. And once in a while, they would hold meetings. Of course, Tokunbo Akintoye had left before me. He was the one who showed me the Nadeco route, what I needed to do, the passport I needed to carry, where to go, where not to go, you know. So, and we will meet at a place off Edgware Road called the Quadrangle, which was owned by Lieutenant General Akinade, the famous Quadrangle. So, Kayode Fayemi was the one coordinating Radio Kudirat. Brilliant young man at the time, very, very brilliant. You know, he had his PhD in military strategy. So it was very, very useful. At some stage, other people also escaped. Nusai Gebo escaped from Tel. Bayo Nunuga escaped from the news, you know. And we were all meeting. Dakolon Yomi was out. We had Ike Okonta, one of the finest writers, you know, he was studying and also writing for us when we started. Of course, there were other contributors who were living in America, like Sunana Olumese, Onukaba, Dinoyo Joe, you know. We had many people from all across the world, Remi Oyeyemi, so many people. It would be impossible for me to remember everyone at once. But Radio Kudirat, you had two people who were managing it, you know, George Noah, Richie Dayo Johnson, and there was an engineer. I think it was a Mr. Johnson as he's late now, he was the technical person staying in the Scandinavian country where they were operating from.
Tell us about your escape out of Nigeria and perhaps, you know, the dramatic. Let's have some dramatic step by step of what happened there.
Well, I've gone to see Chief Segun Ochoba in Abeokuta. So I was coming back on June. Oh, he suffered. He almost died. In fact, he was with us in London the day Abacha died. He was the one who finally broke the news to me. I had heard rumors that Abacha was dead, but I didn't believe it until Chief Ochoba called me. So Chief Ochoba had always been my media godfather. He was a man I wanted to be like. When I arrived in Lagos in 1988, I was living with a friend, Shegun Adebayo, and he had this album of Ebenezer Obey that I Obey sang for Chief Shegun Oshoba. What was the title now? Abatakpa, Oshoba Yidaraba, Olusegun, Awo Felix Adenaike, Awo Peter Ajayi, Awo Funlola Okunawo, Ẹ̀gbọ́n Bukola Okunawo mi, Atibade Ojora Omo Apata. And every morning I used to play that album, that God, I want my life to be like the life of Shegun Oshoba. That was my dream. And I mean, that's why today he remains my godfather. I love him for this because he did what most people could never have done in journalism. He was every editor's delight, probably the greatest reporter ever in Nigerian history. So anyway, I had gone to see him, and I got to Lagos, and on my way home, I met my wife, who said I couldn't go home, that some 4 people had come to tip her off that I should go into hiding because Abacha was going to arrest me and charge me for treason. And you know what that meant. So I had to go immediately underground. I went to stay with some friends. Now, it's safe to say I went to stay somewhere on Cafe, close to Alausa. My friends, the Orolubagbe, in Ikeja, so the Orolubagbe had a place there at the time. So I moved in. We called it the bunker, named after Saddam Hussein's bunker, So I was in hiding, and then I contacted a great mentor of mine because I never planned to leave outside Nigeria. Fortunately, I had my passport outside. I didn't keep that at home. So I already had a premonition that anything could happen to me. So I had my passport and I had a multiple visa to the UK. But I never planned, and unknown to people, as close as I was to Abiola, people thought I was just collecting money. I didn't have money. I was one of those people. I was not on the salary. I was not on anything. If he sent me to go and spend money on anything, I will make sure that I had proof of who I paid and exactly how much I paid. Because having worked with a lot of very powerful people, I know there are always bad people who will try to tear you apart by gossiping about you. They will tell him, oh, Dele is just eating your money or something. So I was very careful. I was extremely careful. And that's why till today, I remain close to the family. So nobody will say Dele was a gold digger. I was never a gold digger. So I didn't have money to travel. So I contacted this billionaire. I'm eternally grateful to him, who took the risk of releasing some money to me immediately, the money I used to escape. Then my friends, led by Bengalu lawyer, they were in London, so they also contributed money. Young people, very young people, most of them would probably have been in their 20s at the time. And so that was how I got 3 people, led by my brother-in-law, now also of blessed memory, Captain Rotimi Seriki. He was a pilot with the Nigeria Airways in those days. There was Kule Bakare, who was with Fame Magazine. And there was Bola Orolubagbe, a good friend of mine, a businessman in Ibadan now. So the 3 of them.
Is that Mr. Sheik's brother?
That's the Orolubagbe's brother, yes, the older brother. So that was how we had been doing things together with Sheyi, with Lagbaja. Yes, I didn't remember to mention the role of Lagbaja. Between me, Lagbaja, and Prince Adeniji Adele. Lagbaja the musician, yes. Lagbaja did a lot. A lot of people didn't know. Yes, he was working with us. Lagbaja was working with us in the bunker. We used to come to the bunker. It was Lagbaja who released an album, a secret album, where he was able to do a modulation of Abiola's voice from a keyboard. Yes. Adam go know, Adam go know, Adam go know, say we dey suffer. Aso Rock is different from Olumo. Adam go know, Adam go know, Adam go know, say we dey suffer. Aso Rock is different from Olumo. And then you will hear a voice of Abiola as if Abiola was speaking from prison. But everything was manufactured by Lagbaja. The voice and everything. I don't know the technology he used. Even that time, Lagbaja was that advanced in technology. And so he did a voice for Abiola. And it sounded like Abiola, my good people of Nigeria. And then, so we made, Chief Ebenezer Obey also made contributions. People didn't know at the time that, in fact, if they had found out it was Chief Obey, maybe they would have killed the old man. We used he had a studio somewhere, I think around Agege side, where we went, I think the Cross Records or something. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, don't forget that Chief Obey and Chief Abiola also, they owned Decca, which became Aphrodisia. So they were partners in the business of music recording and all that. So it was Chief Obey. Even the money that we needed to pay, when I took the money, they said no, that Chief Obey said we should not pay. So we were able to distribute the cassettes and everything. Unfortunately, in my exile years, I lost a lot of these things. I don't know if Lagbaja still has a copy. I will ask him if he still has a copy of that thing. So we did our bit, but a lot of people say, "Oh, we're doing nothing." Those who sat in the comfort of their homes will still accuse us today and say we did nothing. But trust me, I didn't waste my adult life. I am very, very, very proud.
Your useful life as well.
Oh yes, in our time there was no internet to abuse anybody. We didn't have internet. We didn't have anything. You had to go and face bullet on the street. Yeah.
I want to move quickly to labor union and Kokori, and there was a story. I don't have the details about how they shut down the economy with a strike.
Yes, I think Kokori was in charge of Tengasan. He was the leader at Tengasan. And he was an extremely brave man. I'm sure I have his book somewhere in this library, He played because once you shut down the economy, part of the strategy of Abiola was, once you shut down the economy and make the country ungovernable for the military government, there will be pressure on the government, either to relinquish power or for another government to take over and hopefully hand over to Abiola. But every strategy we tried failed, unfortunately. So if I might escape, I got those 3 people and I just dressed casually like a farmer going, to his farm. So we drove to Seneboda, parked somewhere, and then we started entering the bush. One person had my passport, another had my clothes, and we're just navigating. I was just walking across, and when I walked into the Cotonou side of the border, I looked back at Nigeria, I started crying because I didn't even know what will happen to me, where am I going? Okay, my captain says he will look for his own copy of the tape. Yes, the Lagbaja tape. That's the tape that we should, if possible, reproduce for history. It's very, very important. Lagbaja, I doff my hat to you for the support. He's always been very quiet about whatever he does. A lot of people did things and they didn't make any noise about it, So, yes, someone mentioned Mr. Kunle Ajibade. Yes, I mentioned him already with the tempo and the news. Yes, Kunle Ajibade and I were classmates when I was doing my master. So he's been my friend forever. Yeah. So anyway, I came to Cotonou, but I was afraid that they might still locate me in Cotonou. So that same day, I moved to Togo. From Togo, I moved to Ghana. That was my first time ever in Ghana, July 25th, 1995. I was 35 years old then. And from Ghana, I planned out to get to London. Then I went to London.
And then that was when you got there, you reconnected with those who have been...
Oh, immediately, of course, Kokuma Yomi was already waiting for me. He is the closest to me of all the Nadeko chieftains. And he was one who had the gods. Some people have loads of gods. Even when after Abacha and Abiola died, Tokubo and I were the guinea pigs that first came back to Nigeria to find out what was happening. And we were almost arrested in Cotonou, the two of us. We went through so much. Oh, no. There's no way. This is a story that I'm forcing myself not to cry. You see, what makes it painful is the way Nigerians lack appreciation for those who risk everything for the sake of all of us. That is the most. That's the whole idea. But let me tell you, say it from now to kingdom come, write all the books in the world. Some people will not listen, some people will not read. So I'm giving up on that. Whatever you've done, we did for our country and for God and for posterity. That's all. So I'm not ready for anybody to credit me. I'm not ready for anybody to praise me, but it's very painful when people sit down in the comfort of their homes. In fact, I remember Yomi's wife telling us one day that she cries every time she hears or reads any of these things. That, oh, you people ran away to go and enjoy. It's not the best. It's not the best. On your way back? Yes, we came in. You know, we had to come on a refugee passport. And we were not allowed to travel to Nigeria. So we had to disguise and enter the country. We wanted to pay our last respect to Chief Abiola to go to his house after his death, you know. So we did that. Then we discovered that politicians were already regrouping. Immediately, politicians never waste time when it comes to their personal issues, you know. So they were regrouping. Then when we finished our mission, we went back again through Cotonou. So at the airport, so the security people arrested me and Tukubo and asked where we were going, where we got our passport from, what were we doing. And you can imagine those who wanted to come in incognito and go back incognito. We were forced to now be talking about our mission. Then the sad thing, there was one pastor, Mubi, I can't remember his first name now, a Nigerian who was also traveling. I think we traveled on Brussels or whatever. Anyway. And the man saw us being questioned by the security people. So he came over and said, I know this guy. They are great men from Nigeria. Can you please free them? You will not believe it. The police left us and turned to the pastor and started questioning him. Yes, who are you? Bring your passport. Do you know they practically detained the man and he almost missed his flight because of us. People suffered. People who didn't even have anything to do with this work just suffered for nothing. People lost their business, lost their life, lost everything. You see, but for me, the most important thing is what is the way forward. Because sometimes we're too bitter that we miss the way forward. What Abiola represented for me was a day that Nigeria would have changed, a day that would have cemented the unity of Nigeria. So when people say, Abacha did this, Abiola did that, all those stories happened. And we should learn something from that story, that never again should it happen, but we have not learned that. What happens is that government after government comes back, exhibit bitterness, exhibit vindictiveness, destroy lives, destroy more people, when what we need to move Nigeria forward is unity. That's the sad part. I am telling you, anyone who has not read A Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela should go and get that book. Anyone who does not know the story of Mandela and what made him great should please go and read. Everything is available on Google these days. Go and read the life of Mandela. Mandela wasted 27 years of his life in prison. A lot of his people were killed. A lot of his people were maimed. In fact, he lost his wife, Winnie Mandela, who I met exactly 2 months before she died. 2 years ago. He lost his wife, but he never exhibited any bitterness. Rather, he said we should all unite for the sake of South Africa. That is what Nigeria needs today. The next president of Nigeria must be a unifier, must be someone who can take something from Chief Abiola. What made Abiola great was his spirit of togetherness, of forgiveness. Despite the fact that Babangida annulled the election, Abiola wanted them to be friends. That letter was released by Tempo. Let's be friends again. It was released. Because that was Abiola. Abiola knew that Nigeria would never make progress in an atmosphere of anomy, of confusion, of breakdown of law and order. Even when you fight a war, you still come back to the table to negotiate. So why are we killing ourselves? Why are we fighting? That's what changed me. Yeah, thank you. Some of the, the book changed me. Yeah, the Mandela book changed me, definitely. Today, people ask me, why do you cover the wedding of Abacha's daughter? So they are there. They died. I can't continue to be bitter. Maybe I also needed to fulfill my own destiny through that process. Who knows? If I was not in exile, there would be no Ovation today, I'm sure of that. And if there was Ovation, it would not be in the format it is. I will not be a global brand today. So I can't live forever in the bitterness of my history, in the bitterness of my past. I can't. My religion says, forgive your enemies. If you don't want to forgive me, that's fine, but I will forgive you. There are people that I forgave, that even me, I couldn't believe I could forgive them. There were people who wronged me, but I am human. I'm not God. I forgave them because that is what my religion teaches me. You cannot be a Christian. Every day, the people who abuse people on the internet, they are all Christians or Muslims, and I wonder what they gain from bitterness. In fact, you suffer more in bitterness. Bitterness kills.
Let me take you quickly. Let me take you quickly. I want to close up on that section before I go to the final part of the conversation on the role of the student. And I also wanted to understand the relationship that many of these guys had personally with Chief MKO before all of this happened. So you mentioned, so for example, the students as well, what was their role? The Mayeguns, the Shores, what were the other, the Afikoyomis, the Bamidele Okoyemis, and you've talked about some of the things, but you also know some things. You were close to Baba, so you knew, you had access. What were the young guys? How old were they at that time? And my goal from that is that many of our not too young to run advocates need to also understand that it's not just about, I've run for office 2 times, but I also understand that it's more than just contesting office. It's also staying around the corridors of power, learning things, being mentored, not learning the corruption, but learning how things work, studying leaders, and to be able to grow from there.
Well, there was, you see, one of the greatest attributes of Abiola was his ability to connect to everybody, whether old or young. So he had a lot of people, even for a family that had a running battle with him, the Anikulapo family. Abiola was close to Dr. Bello from Kuti, who played a major role. You had the campaign for democracy at that time. You had the Olisa Takoba. There's no way you can forget all those people who made their contributions, Ayo Obey and everybody. They all made their contributions at the time. So the students every now and then came, and one of the things that Abiola liked about student unionism at that time is that they didn't come for his money. Even when he offered money, they won't take it. It's not like now. That's why I was telling you that a lot of people thought, oh, they must have made a lot of money from Abiola. No, it wasn't true. It was not true. We were doing this. We were not doing it for Abiola. We were doing it for the future of our children and for posterity. People don't know how to make sacrifice. I was taught early in life by my mom that sacrifice is not always convenient. If you are looking for quick money, then you cannot make sacrifice. Today, advocacy has become monetized. And that is why nothing is working. If Nance calls students tomorrow now to say we're going on demonstration, nobody will listen. Because you know that within 2 days, something is likely to go wrong. You know, so someone said I should talk about Showore. That's it. Showore was one of those student union leaders who, right from that moment, was known to be very, very upright. And he did everything from the position of an activist till today. He hasn't changed. He has made money now. He's no longer a poor man. But he's still a conscience of the nation. You had Chief Ganipa, there's no way you are going to talk about the struggle and you will not mention Chief Ganipa, who was one of my own greatest mentors. A lot of people will not know that I was one of the closest people to Chief Ganipa. He attended, he doesn't go to socials, he doesn't go out. He's always fighting. He's from one prison to the other. On my wedding day, I was shocked when I saw Chief Ganipa at my wedding in Nijebuko. He came all the way. If I posted the pictures a few days ago, you know, I had very good relationship with these people because they knew I was committed. But a lot of people believe that, hey, to say you are an activist, you must look like a ruffian, sometimes you must look dirty. That's not true. There were people, in fact, the most difficult thing is when you have the ability to make billions cheaply from a system and you refuse. That is my idea of an activist. A man, till today, I have the opportunity to make billions from the system and I've refused. I've sacrificed everything. My children hardly see me, my wife hardly sees me, and yet I keep going. I have friends in the Buhari government, and yet I will not go to Abuja and sit down there. I said and tell them I need this, I need that. Never. I tell them when so I would rather work with my hands. You know, so people don't understand what sacrifice means any longer. So they just lump all of us together. Oh, you are friends with those people. I'll greet everybody. I'm not going to say because I disagree with you, I won't greet you if I meet you. Integrity, thank you. Mandi Oriyomi, thank you so much. People don't know the meaning of integrity. Integrity is when you refuse to partake in the looting of your nation. People don't understand that any business I do, it's like selling garden or selling pharmacy or anything. You go there, you buy, you go. I don't have to be involved. I've never gone to anybody to say, yeah, you must come and patronize me. If you don't patronize me, I will, even if you patronize me, I will still criticize you. Because to go and buy my product, I'm not going to go stand on the street and say, when you see sinners, don't sell magazines to them. They'll still sell to them, but that will not compromise me. What happens to most people is that once they enjoy patronage, then they abandon activism. I've never done that, and I won't do it.
I want to, the final role that I want, you know, the perspective on the role will be on the wives. Alaja Kudirat gave the greatest sacrifice of all, her life. I've started read a moving tribute to her on the conversation when I was talking to her yesterday. What were some of the roles that Alaja did, Dr. Doyin Abiola did, Mr. Abiola did, and was there any story of something that happened that you remember, maybe even from Gujarat, you know, before, during, or post 2012?
Well, don't forget that Chief Abiola was a master strategist. He was the Don, the boss of all bosses, what you would call the capo di tutti capi. You know, his wives, that was part of his strategy. He had wives from different parts of Nigeria. So he had wives who could speak Igbo, wives who could speak Yoruba, wives who could speak Hausa, wives who could speak Efik. And that also helped him in his campaigns. So after the demise of Alaja Simbiat, so he had only 3 wives within the premises, living with them. You know, they had their own apartment. So you had Chief Mrs. Miriam Adebisi Abiola, you had Alaja Kudirat Abiola, you had Dr. Amidat Abiola, you know. So they were in different parts of the house, and they all had specific roles. Those who will go to the north, those who will go to the east, those who will go to the west. That was what it did. But you know, Alaja Kudirat stood out because at that time, she was the next in line to Alaja Simbiat. So a lot of things happened, and she was a woman of courage. She put everything at risk for her husband, and she lost her life, unfortunately, in the process. And I feel for our family all the time. It's not easy to lose your father and your mother to a struggle, especially in a thankless society. Most people just move on in Nigeria. Once something goes wrong, the people move on. So anyway, the wives, so he had other wives who didn't live within the precincts of his home. But everybody, there was nobody who knew Abiola who don't want to do things for Abiola.
Awesome. As I wrap up, because of our time, I have 3 more questions.
Wow.
First was, what were some of MKO's plans? What was some of MKO's plans for Nigeria? And do you are you seeing improvement in them today? That's one. Let me ask the two together. The second part is the people that fought, all of your generation that fought for the movement and the democracy we enjoy today. Do you think that they've been compensated enough?
Well, I will answer the first one. Abiola's main manifesto was Farewell to Poverty. It's a published book. I'm sure I will have a copy in my library. And Abiola was a welfareist. If he could spend so much of his own personal wealth on improving the lives of Nigeria, so you could imagine what his plans would be. Abiola believed in education. He believed that without education, no man could go far in life. He invested heavily in education. Abiola was the single largest donor of cash, fiscal cash, to about 30 universities at the time. When money was money, I think he gave 1 million each to the universities. So education was part of his farewell to poverty. Abiola believed in agriculture. In fact, Abiola Farms Limited, he had his facilities in Lagos, he had facilities in Ogun, he had in Lafiagi, in Kwara, he had in Dhaka, in Taraba State. He was going to build the biggest rice factory in Taraba at the time, you know. So he would have invested heavily. So the diversification that we all talk about today from oil, Abiola would have been involved in it. The economy, without a strong economy, you can have dreams. Your dreams will never materialize. And that's why I was telling you that Nigeria is practicing capitalism without capital. Abiola would have been a welfareist who would have built up the capital to create welfare for the people. So without capital, there is nothing you can do. So Abiola was into all the major areas of the economy. He was the second Nigerian to discover oil in commercial quantity after Dr. Mike Adenuga Jr. Corn oil. Then the next was Abiola, who discovered oil, Summit Oil International. That was the name of his company. Abiola was involved in banking. He was involved in banking and in partnership with his friends. You know, he was a partner of Major General Shehu Musa Yaradua and all of them. So they had a big bank. They owned a big bank at the time. Abiola was involved in maritime, shipping. They had the African Ocean Lines Limited with Bamanga Tuko, the Dr. Raymond Aleogordopesi, and Shehu Musa Yaradua. They were involved in maritime. So everything that could generate money, they were involved in it. Then, in the area of health, Abiola was one man who believed that there is no reason why Nigerians, in fact, his doctor, his closest doctor was in Nigeria, despite the fact that he has access to the best doctors in the world. Abiola relied on Dr. Palomo, who died last year. I was at his funeral. I was at the Christian Wiki, last year. A great man. That's one man who could have given us a lot of insight into the story of God. They were particularly close. They were very, very close. So Dr. Orefalomo was one man who died with a lot of information, and I regret it because I tried to make him speak to me, but unfortunately, we never had the time, and then suddenly he died. He was such a great man and such a great loss to Nigeria. So farewell to poverty was Abiola's idea of making sure that we could have wealth creation, employment opportunities, you know, and entrepreneurship. He did everything he could. On the issue of religion, Abiola, even the ethnicity, Abiola was the most tribalized Nigerian. He showed a true example of unity in the conduct of his businesses. It's not like people who just mouth unity, but they cannot demonstrate it completely. Abiola conquered these papers. We had Dr. Doyin Abiola, we had Ilekiwa, who was from Edo State, we had Yakubu Muhammad, we had Tombora, we have MCK Akinichuku at different times, we had Stanley Ugochukwu, we had Isikak SN, and these were all most of them were not Yoruba at the time. You know, Chike Akabogu, you know, Nnamdi Obasi. We had some fantastic, you know, people working for him. Then, you know, that was it. Someone was talking about Abiola. That was a stupid rumor that he threw the Bible in the ocean. Abiola went to school, Baptist Boys High School. How can he throw Bible in the ocean? One of those illiterate things that people talk about all the time. Was he working for the Nigerian Navy and they had a submarine to torpedo a ship? Or what? Abiola quotes the Bible more than the pastor. At my wedding in 1992, the first song he sang was Apokopolo Loko Adilonwa at my wedding. So I can talk about the Bible, please. Don't let him go there. Anyway, that's a bit I can say about it.
My final question for you, because we've been on for 2 hours, 16 minutes. It's been an in-depth conversation.
Thank you.
I'm happy that this will be available on YouTube. It's available on all my Facebook page. The first version is going to be on my Instagram, and the second version is also going to be on Bob Dee's Instagram. This is, for those who are just joining, this is the CovInspiration with Bashorun Dele Momodu. For the next 12 days, we're having conversations with people like him who have been at the forefront of the June 12 movement, who fought, who paid the price, no matter how little, in the democracy or for the democracy that we are enjoying today. Bashorun Dele Momodu, my mentor and my big effort, what is the biggest personal lesson that you've learned from Chicken Pure?
Well, one, you must be God-fearing. Nobody is perfect. He was very God-fearing. Two, you must be very generous. It doesn't mean that you should be stupid. In fact, one of his quotes I like is that he read in the Bible that you should love your neighbor as yourself, not more than yourself. So you should love your neighbor, but not more than yourself. He also likes to say that the hand of the giver is always on top, while the receiver is always at the bottom. So I like to give when I can, what I can. And then finally, the spirit of forgiveness. Is the most difficult thing in life is to forgive your enemy. And that's what is killing Nigeria today. We're not ready to embrace ourselves, forget the past and move forward. No. We are in total disarray. And the house divided against itself cannot stand according to the Holy Book of the Bible. Thank you.
Someone told me a quote that Abiola was always saying, that it says that if you want to fight somebody, you cannot be outside and the person is inside. You have to tell the person to come out or go to meet the person to be able to fight with that person. What was I was going to say it in Yoruba. Is there any famous way or quote or proverb that MK was always saying?
Oh, he had a lot of them. There was one he'd like to say, you cannot hide behind one finger. You cannot shave a man's head in his absence. I think that maybe that's the one the person was referring to, that to shave my head, I must be ready. I must put my head down. There's another one that if you want to know if a fish is bad, smell the head. If the head is bad, then the whole body is rotten. Then there's another one that you don't run after a madman who collected your clothes by the river bank. You are inside the river swimming, and you put your clothes out, and then a mad person comes, takes it, and is running away, and then you come out naked. Is that most people even think you are the mad one? You know. Then there's another one that you don't stop, you don't stand in front of a moving train if you cross you. He had so many. There's a book I have that here too. There's a book of Proverbs by Ben Okaze. Yes. Ben wrote a book.
My final question for you, Bob Dee, are you going to run again?
I don't think so. People have asked me this. You see, I understand Nigeria better now. I know my country inside out, and I'm not boasting. There are not many people who know Nigeria and who have participated in different struggles in Nigeria as me. I've been in it since I was 22. I know the country very well, very, very well. I'll give you a story, a quick story. When General Obasanjo was brought back to contest in 1999, I didn't support him because I had my reasons not to, because he was coming from a military background. So I supported Chibolu Falaye. These are other things people don't know. It should have been convenient for me. I knew Obasanjo was going to win. But life is not all about winning elections. It's about principle. You know, so I supported Chibolu Falaye. And I didn't just support. I'm a very practical supporter. I advised him that if he was going to pick a northern vice president, he should look for a very educated person from the north. And he asked me who I had in mind. And I said, Dr. Rilwan, who was at OPEC in Vienna. And little me, I spent my little resources to go to Vienna. Nobody paid me for it. To go and scout for a vice president for Chibolu Falaye. And when I got to Vienna, Dr. Rilwan declined. He said he can't do it. I asked why. He said, look, the owners of Nigeria who control Nigeria have decided that it's Obasanjo they want. I said, but we haven't done the election. He said, I should forget it. I learned the lesson that day. He saw me off to the airport. When we got to the airport, he told me that I should thank Chief Falaye for considering him. He said, but he won't waste his time. So I'm not going to waste my time to contest the next election. When I know that the owners of Nigeria are the ones that will still determine who will be the president of Nigeria. That's what happened. If the owners of Nigeria, you could say that even with all the principles of Buhari contested 3 times. He lost 3 times. Why? Because he could not persuade the owners of Nigeria. That's one. Saints don't win elections. You still need the services of bad people. So saints and sinners always come together because election is a game of number. So when you see people say, oh, next election, where we are going to have a young person, it is not as simple as that. I've gone through it. One, for you to contest, if I decide to contest today, it means I must have the ticket of either APC or PDP in whatever form they are at the time, because you don't know if they will implode and they will change their nomenclature again. So I will not waste my time going to a fringe party, a 3rd, 4th, 5th party. It's a waste of time and resources. You need a lot of money to contest presidential election anywhere in the world. You need, and Nigerians are not the type that will make contributions. If people made our youth who say they want a young person, make contributions to Showore or to Fernando or to Morgado or any of them at that time, I am telling you, they would have made an appreciable impact. So where do you get the money to even to pay your agents nationwide? It costs 2 billion. Agents on polling day, the agents alone will cost 2 billion of money. Well, because without your agent, they will steal your votes. Nothing will happen. Even the police, people mobilize police, they will mobilize security forces, they will mobilize everybody. That's why it is such an expensive business, and that is why only the rich, until Buhari had the rich people behind it, he couldn't win election in Nigeria. He could not.
Uncle, I think that everybody needs to actually have the experience of contesting. I think that until you contest, You never really understand the dynamic. I have done 2 elections.
But I told you, did you not talk to me? Did I not tell you you were wasting your time?
Experience.
No, you have even made progress. At least you are in government now. You have made progress. That's another thing. One, you must be in the right party. You must know the party of your people. So you were smart not to have left APC. You were with them. Even when how would I say, even when they disappointed you, you just went home quietly to go and cry in your bedroom. You understand? So you didn't fight them publicly. And you are such a brilliant guy. You are a genius. And I'm not trying to patronize you. You are a brilliant, your brain. If you continue to use it positively, trust me, the sky is not even your limit. You are the future of Nigeria. I see that in you because you are doing what some of us did then, but we were not open-eyed enough to start contesting early. I think that was part of our own error. So today, a lot of people don't respect us because they've never seen us in government. In Nigeria, once you have never been in government, people think you are nobody. So even the media, when I was contesting, most of them thought I was joking because they were not used to seeing journalists say they want to become president of the country. So I can assure you that in my own case, I won't waste my time unless I'm drafted by one of the mainstream parties. That is not impossible because I combine, if the owners of Nigeria feel now that, okay, they want someone who combines South-South with South-West. My father is Edo, my mom is Osun. So that's a very strategic thing. I'm telling myself now. So the owners of Nigeria, if you are watching, if the owners of Nigeria are watching, I'm telling myself, I'm the only person I know who combines South-South and South. Don't worry, I can deliver both for you. I'm available.
And you have all the global international connection as well.
God has helped us with that too.
The founder of Ovation Group, who has taken the magazine from his exile base in England to the whole globe. He's featured anybody that you can imagine. I have not met any Nigerian who have met as much world leaders aside from presidents and heads of state as much as Bob Dee, Dele Momodu. I do not know a living soul. If you have met somebody, please present the person to me. And I'm so grateful to God. I look up to you a lot. I mentor him. So when people look at me and how I've met a lot of world leaders, I interact, I have access, it was all inspired to the glory of God by the life of Bob Dee. It has been great talking to you. I want to say big thank you.
No, I must tell you, my brother, that you've done very well. Dayo Israel. What's your latest title, Bashorun? What is your latest title? Okay, but I must thank you, seriously, I must thank you for your hard work. I've been watching you, I monitor you, I see what you are doing, and I've said it, sky is not even your limit. I am very confident that you will be a major leader of your generation, and you will succeed where we probably did not, by the grace of Almighty. I wish you well. Take good care. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
God bless you. Thank you, Mike Effiong, and all the people who have watched the show.